Welcome, everyone. Perhaps you have heard about Ayurvedic food or are intrigued by it. Maybe you've had someone who knows Ayurveda cook for you, or you've looked up an Ayurvedic recipe on the Joyful Belly website, and you saw a glimpse of perhaps a new way of thinking about food, and that got you excited about learning Ayurvedic cooking, and you're here tonight. And so tonight's talk is about how Ayurveda views food and uses food for both enjoyment and for its medicinal value, and how actually how those are not really separate things, but this two different sides or of the same coin, so to speak. Your tongue is supposed to like things that are good for you, and so if you are eating good food and food that is healthy for you, ultimately it should be more enjoyable. And so Ayurveda doesn't see this sort of tug of war between health and enjoying food. Instead, it is it is those are brought together in a very beautiful and very natural way, because I've come to see how Ayurveda appreciates or understands or articulates the way we naturally approach food. And so I'm hoping that a lot of what I share in today's lecture that's unique to Ayurveda will be something that feels very natural to you and almost very simple, but at the same time incredibly rich, and that and has a lot of depth to it. So yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. My name is John Immel. This is what I look like. I'm sharing my screen. I think you should be able to see it on your screen, and see the picture of me here. But that's who I am, and tonight's talk is sponsored by our 1 year certification course in mastering Ayurvedic digestion and nutrition, and that's a 500-hour, 10-month. Really 1 year course, because there's some clinic after that 10-month period that is designed to elevate your knowledge and expertise in digestive health and food to a level of mastery. In that course, we teach a lot of the principles that I'll be discussing tonight. And also, we teach our graduates how to have a very intuitive understanding of food, how to know the pharmacology and medicine of food just from experiencing food through the senses, so that if you ate a new food or encountered a new food that you've never had before, you'd be able to talk intelligently about its pharmacological and medicinal effects just from using your five senses to experience the food. Now, this may sound like a bold claim, but it's not. It's a very natural claim, and our biology should know how to do that, right? Shouldn't it be the case that we would understand the effect of food on our body just from our experience of it? And indeed, we can. How did these ancient herbalists and medieval herbalists and even modern herbalists, how do they come to know the medicinal effects of herbs? In some cases, there are double-blind, placebo, testing done in a laboratory on the effects of herbs. But in many cases, it is the clinical experience of an herbalist that comes to understand the effect of an herb through an understanding of its qualities and general nature, and some really sound intuition. And that's what we want to help people develop in this program, and even in tonight's talk. They go together. Tonight's talk is a sort of taste of what the program is like, and the kinds of things that you'll learn in the program. Should you decide to take it to the next level and really learn how to eat for health, and really learn how all the fine nuances of food, which is so exciting and very pleasurable, and also uh, some a tool that you have to heal your family, your community, and use professionally. So you can check out that course on the Joyful Belly website. But first thing I'm going to start with is some simple questions, and we'll just keep going a little richer. I'm going to just present the terrain a little bit and how to eat in a healthy way, and then I'll talk a little bit more specifically about how Ayurveda approaches food and analyzes food more towards the end. So we'll work up to that. Starting with why Ayurveda cooking is important. Well, it's important for health. It's which means prevention of disease and feeling better, and also healing disease. But prevention is a special concern for a person who has to eat every day anyway. So you might as well pick the things that feel good, right? We have to stop whatever we're doing in our day to eat and take a little bit of care of our body. So if we put just a little bit more intention into our meals, it really pays off with emotional equanimity, happiness, a better frame of mind, and more settled in your mind. And so food has a big impact on health and quality of life. And another thing I'll say about cooking is that it can save you a lot of money. It's generally much cheaper than eating out and a lot faster too, especially when you know how to cook. And I'll talk just a little bit about that too. Um, skillful cooking. Skillful cooking saves you time, right? And I know this personally. When I first started my adult life, I was not a very good cook, and sometimes because I loved food, I would spend hours in the kitchen before the meal was ready. Now I can produce that same meal in 20 minutes or 25 minutes, right? So a person who knows how to cook will literally shave off an easy 20 minutes off of every meal 3 times a day, right? Now, if you add all that up, cooking well and knowing how to cook is one of the things that can just save you the more time than anything else, right? If you had an extra 20 minutes 3 times a day for 50 years, you would have 18,000 hours of your life back. And so learning how to cook is great for keeping yourself healthy, for making you happier, for saving money, and also just a heck of a lot of time. Knowing how to cook saves time. It takes a lot of time to drive somewhere and pick up a meal and drive home. Also, I can cook and eat faster than that at home, and do it in a relaxed, beautiful, wonderful way. In Ayurveda, food is respected. My father was admitted to the hospital for coronavirus and just was discharged about 3 days ago, and such an ordeal. It was scary. He had that cytokine storm that kills people who it kills some people. There's not a high death rate with coronavirus, but some people get it very severely, and my dad was one of those people. And when he was discharged from the hospital, the only diet advice they said was you have no restrictions in your diet. Now I know his kidney is has suffered from coronavirus, and his liver has taken a hit, but mostly his kidney. His blood urea nitrogen levels were high, and I can just think of lots and lots of foods that would baby his kidney for for a few days or even a week or two while his body is healing from that runaway inflammatory cascade that's characteristic of severe COVID. So, uh, so food is respected for its ability to have an influence on your body in Ayurveda in a very individual way, right? So, not so much. We're not going to take the approach of fast food or ready-made meals and processed ingredients, but really understanding fresh food and knowing fresh food. There's an Ayurvedic proverb that says, "When the diet is wrong, is of no use, and when the diet is correct, medicine is of no need." Right? If a person has a terrible diet, there's very little that I can do with herbs to help them. and and pharmaceuticals may cure them for the moment, but they're going to be back at the hospital or back in the clinic the next year or 2 years later, and things will be worse then. Diet. When the diet's correct, medicine is of no need. Your body is more resilient. The scope of today's talk is a little bit broad. It's a big topic, Ayurvedic cooking. I can't cover it all in an hour, but I'm just going to plant some seeds. So first, we're going to go through preliminaries, right? Because we have to have choosing the basics correctly, and just some foundational things before we get into the specifics of how Ayurveda selects food. So first, I'm going to go through how to select healthy ingredients. First, organic, non-GMO is best, right? But sometimes that is very expensive and or unavailable. So if you can't get organic or non-GMO, get food that has a peel, right? So this banana, you have to peel it. So if they're putting pesticides on the outside of the or spraying pesticides, when you peel it, the inside has not been sprayed, right? It's the pesticides are on the skin. And so that's better. An avocado is an example of a food where you peel the skin and the inside has not been sprayed with pesticides, right? Number three is food with an easily washable surface, like a tomato. Now, this is opposed to a strawberry. You see all those seeds, or can you imagine all those seeds on the outside of the strawberry? How do you wash the pesticide out of the cracks between the seed and the surface of the strawberry? So I don't buy strawberries that are non-organic, but I would be more comfortable with a non-organic tomato because I know I can wash it, and even more comfortable with a banana or avocado. Here's an example. See these raspberries. How do you wash all the pesticides out of those little nooks and crannies? That's really difficult to do. That's really hard. So, um, uh, food that perishes very easily needs more pesticides to keep from rotting. So blackberries again is a perfect example. If you buy a pint of blackberries from the store and you don't eat it within 2 days, it turns moldy and turns to mush. Some foods rot very quickly, and those foods need more pesticides on them to keep them from rotting and getting attacked by insects. So generally, I avoid those if I'm not buying organic. Um, Great. Yeah, and then inorganic processed food is just mystery food, right? At that point. So you don't know what's happened to it or what kind of preservatives are in it. All right, how about selecting freshest ingredients? The most fresh is a garden, right? Just picking it right from the garden. After that, flash frozen food is freshest, often even more fresh than the produce aisle at your supermarket. Now, I know that's counterintuitive and maybe even a little controversial, but food that's sitting in the produce aisle of the grocery store has been picked at the farm maybe 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, sitting in a truck, traveling cross country, and then sitting in the grocery store for a few days also. In contrast to that, flash frozen food is often picked at the farm at the peak of ripeness and then frozen to lock in all the nutrients. And so often the frozen food actually has a higher nutrient profile. And you can check some scientific studies on that. And yeah, so that's interesting. I know probably controversial for some folks on the call. Um, Great. The farmer's market was probably picked within a few days of your purchase. So that's pretty fresh. And then I've already talked about grocery store produce. It's often picked before it's fully ripened, sitting on the shelf for days after traveling, sometimes around the world. All right. And processed food is much less fresh. And then processed food after the expiration date, less fresh after. Great. So try buying your fresh produce several times a week. This is what they do in Europe. Is that on the way home from work, stop in the grocery store, pick up a fresh food or two, and then bring it home, as opposed to buying your groceries once a week and having them sit in your fridge for yet another week, right? Um, if you can, right? We all do our best. As I said in in the pre-call chat, I have 5 kids, right? So I'm in your boat, right? I'm in the boat of running a school, and I have kids, and lots of other, lots of other interests that I like to pursue. And so I'm keeping the balls in the air too, and juggling them and doing the best I can, right? Just like all of us. So don't beat yourself up if you can't do perfect, but do the best that you can. And I even tell people, um, if you're going out to a fast food place or you're eating at McDonald's, you can still eat the best food there. You don't have to eat the worst food there just because you're there, right? So you just always do the best you can. And if you're always making the better choice, then with the materials you have at hand, that's going to make a huge impact on your health. All right, so maximizing nutrients in your food. Now, macronutrients is carbohydrates, fats, proteins. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about micronutrients here, your different vitamins and mineral spectrum, and all that kind of thing that people can be really deficient in. So, tender young sprouts have a high nutrient density, and then brightly colored fruits and vegetables, and meats, if they're brightly colored, they have more micronutrients in them. Parboiled food. So, lightly boiling food for a minute or two can kill the harmful bacteria, but still retains a lot of freshness. If you boil things for a really long time, then the nutrients are going to be breaking down. Sometimes a lot of the nutrients are in the water, and people pour off the water instead of drinking it. A lot of times, I save my vegetable water and drink it with my meal. Steaming food leaves a lot of freshness, but the more you boil it, here you see this looks pretty dead, right? This is not really appetizing anymore. Doesn't have any of its fresh brightness. It looks like beet greens that have been cooked into oblivion, and they've lost all of their freshness and crunchiness and color. All right, slow cooked food is going to break down nutrients more. Now, here's the paradox, right? Is that slow cooked food is a lot easier to digest. And as someone said in the pre-call chat, it doesn't matter if the food has lots of nutrients in it. If you can't digest it, you're not getting those nutrients. So in Ayurveda, we cook for digestion first and nutrients second, right? Because you can't get nutrients out of food you can't digest. So if you have to cook something in a crock pot in order for your body to digest it, that's preferred than something with more nutrients that you can't digest. A classic example of that is white or brown rice. Brown rice has more nutrients, but much harder for many of my clients to digest, and a significant cause of gas, bloating, and other digestive upset for clients who have weaker digestions. And so I recommend white rice to those clients, and they're going to have to get their nutrients from other foods, vegetables, and other things. There's plenty of different ways to get your nutrients, so we don't have to get it from brown rice. All right, and then leftovers and processed food in a box again is going to have the least amount of nutrients in it. All right, now cooking changes the qualities of the food also, and I'm going to get a little bit into biocharacteristics and the qualities, the biological qualities that Ayurveda pays close attention to in your body, and then really that's at the root of Ayurveda's theory of medicine, and I'm working my way towards that. So before we get there, I just want to talk a little bit about various huge food debates that are out there, right? The raw versus cooked debate. It's like it could be a religious war, right? Sometimes there's people get into fights over this stuff in the health food industry, right? If you and you know what I mean if you've been in the health food industry for a while. And I see in the chat here, Anne is talking about oxalates from high oxalate veggies when drinking the water they were boiled in. So first of all, Anne, cooking food breaks down those oxalates. So it's raw food. It's the people who are juicing beet greens or beetroot or chard that are getting those oxalates. And people who are at risk of kidney stones should not be juicing food that's high in oxalates every day, because it could cause them to get a kidney stone. So yeah, and if you're juicing raw foods and eating this highly concentrated form of the vegetable, you have to really pay attention to some of the phytochemicals in the plant. Basically, you've transformed the food into an herb if you're juicing, and so you want to treat it with the same reverence you would an herb, and recognize that it could have side effects at that point. Yeah, so great point that you're bringing up, Anne. And I've said most of the things on this slide already. Raw food technically has more nutrients, but it's also more difficult for the body to digest when it's raw. So you have to, know what your body can handle. Okay, great, great. When you puree or shred food, it makes it easier to digest. So, Fletcherizing. If you've in the at the turn of the last century, not the 2000s, but the 1900s, is when the blender came out, and was heavily promoted by a person named Fletcher. I don't remember his first name. Mr. Fletcher, we'll call him. And it became a verb at that time. Fletcherizer meant blending or pureeing your food, and that was supposed to increase your intelligence and IQ, and make you healthier. And the reason why is because it made food easier to digest. Just think about the amount of work it's going to take one of your or you take your stomach acids to dissolve an unchewed almond, as opposed to um, an almond smoothie, right? The smoothie is going to digest much more quickly and with much less energy, and that's going to free up a lot of your metabolism for other things. So when I have a client that has a busy corporate job, or a client that's sick and a little bit weak, I recommend they puree their food, so that way they have a lot of energy either for that big board meeting at work, or to heal their body as they're convalescing from an illness. All right, and boiling makes the food more moist and soggy, while roasting it increases dryness. You ever notice that when you're roasting something or even sauteing it on the burner, that there's steam coming up from the food? Well, that steam is the liquid leaving the food. Some constitutions don't do well with dried out food, so they shouldn't roast, and others do okay with it. And if you have a glass of water with the food and you're well hydrated, it might be fine. But if the food's more concentrated and dried out due to roasting and sauteing, you have to be more careful chewing also, because the food is denser. All right. All right, great. Microwave. Studies show that microwaved food has a higher nutrient density, but because of the shorter cooking time, essentially. Now, there's also some memes going around the internet of how microwaves can destroy the energy of water, right? And there's some photos that kind of show that by a Japanese photographer, and so some people say don't use the microwave at all because it kind of destroys the energy of the food, well, scientific studies have shown that it does create a higher nutrient density. All right, fermented foods, another big question for people, and I'm going through all the basic questions here that we get about food, and then again I will start talking about the specific way that Ayurveda tailors food for the individual. All right, so fermented foods are easier to digest. That's why we yeast our bread, right? Wheat is hard to digest. So we yeast it, and the yeast ferments it, and that makes it easier to digest. The same reason why Asians ferment tofu, because soybeans are difficult to digest. So fermenting makes things easier to digest. but it also heats up the blood, and what we'd say vitiates ruptadatu, or corrupts the red part of the blood, and makes it more fiery. And I'm using some Ayurvedic words there. If you don't know them, that's okay. I think you get the gist of what I'm saying, and that's enough for now. Uh, Fermenting foods create sour taste, and sour has a specific effect on the body, which I'm going to cover in a minute. And also, there's more bacterial endotoxins in the food, right? The bacteria create waste products, just like our bodies do, right? We have to eliminate our wastes through urine and bowel movements, and bacteria eliminate their wastes too. And fermented food has the bacteria waste in it. And so there could be some other toxicity in there as well. And the liver has to clean that up. And that's why fermented foods increase pitta in the liver. And that's how they corrupt the blood. Anyway, that's a little more of an advanced topic. I'm not saying that all ferments aren't good. I have a picture here of sauerkraut, and I think there's lots of great reasons to have sauerkraut, probiotic. And again, because it's easier to digest, more nutrient availability. And that is important too. Everything's a trade off, right? In health, it's never just this perfect answer. And I'll give an example from my father this last week in the hospital with coronavirus. Now his kidneys were a little weak, and the medicine that they were giving him to dry up COVID pneumonia was stressing the kidneys. Right? He wanted the lungs to be dry, but plenty of moisture for the kidneys, so that the kidneys wouldn't be harmed. But they had to give him a diuretic in order to dry out the lungs. And so, but what is it perfect? No, it was hurting his kidneys. But they had to make a choice. They had to choose whether to hurt the kidneys more or drain the lungs with that diuretic. And that is the same choice all of us make every day with regard to our health. There's no perfect food out there. Raw food isn't perfect, it's harder to digest. Crock-pot cooked food isn't perfect because the breakdown in nutrients. Fermented food isn't perfect, it corrupts the blood. But fermented food has a higher nutrient profile and easier to digest. So we're not looking for some kind of perfect food that's, from the Brazilian rainforest, or in the only grows at the top of Mount Fuji in Japan or something like that, right? We are just choosing regular foods that encourage qualities we need in our body, and that don't attack our weaknesses, and we're making trade-offs to do that, right? I just want to make sure that that this is we're not talking about orthorexia here in Ayurveda. Orthorexia meaning people who are kind of obsessed with finding the perfect food. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're saying things like, okay, this person's liver's pretty strong, but their digestion's a little weak. They can probably handle the fermented food. It's not going to hurt their liver too much, but they really need good digestibility. So that person will get the ferment. Another person who has a very weak liver, we're not going to give them ferments, even if they need the nutrients. We'll find another way to get them the nutrients. All right, good. What are some good Ayurvedic pantry staples to get you started? Ghee is a great Ayurvedic pantry staple. It has a really high smoke point. It's made from butter that has been heated and then purified, so that difficult to digest milk solids are separated and removed. It doesn't cause a lot of cholesterol like butter does. Basmati rice is another Ayurvedic staple, very easy to digest, very tasty rice that has a kind of roasted flavor to it, and great rice. Mung beans. Now here I've showed you the picture of the mung beans with the skin on. Those are actually hard to digest. I should get you a picture of the mung beans when the skins are removed, which makes them yellow. It's yellow split mung bean is what you want, not these green ones shown in the photo. And the mung beans are an especially easy to digest bean. Now, beans have a ton of fiber, so they clean the digestive tract, and they have a little bit of astringent taste, which, if you know that what astringent taste does, is it kind of tightens tissues, and that's how it tones digestive organs and purges mucus from the bowels. So, a classic dish in Ayurveda is mixing basmati and mung bean together, split yellow mung bean that has the skin removed. And that creates a dish called khichdi, where you put ghee and spices in that dish. And that's a classic food for people who are trying to nurse themselves back to health. It's kind of like the chicken soup of India. All right, coconut oil. Coconut oil is considered the second best oil for cooking after ghee in Ayurveda. And I just love coconut oil. I recommend it to many of my clients. It's a medium chain fatty acid that digests very easily as a fat. And so it's a good source of calories for deficient Vata clients. Coconut oil is really great for that, and also it's nice and cooling for Pitta clients. So it's an anti-inflammatory. It's a liver tonic. One of my favorite oils. In fact, I recommend coconut oil more than ghee in my practice. Limes. Limes are a strong sour, and sours. Here's what sours do, and I'll give you some insight into why you drink lemonade in the summer. Right? Sours stimulate secretion of all exocrine glands in the body, including your salivary glands, including your enzyme producing glands in your digestive tract, your gallbladder, and your sweat glands. So when you have something that's a strong sour, it opens up your pores and gets blood flowing close to the surface of the skin. That's how you radiate heat off, right? The sweat and the blood flow close to the surface of the skin helps you radiate and lose heat, and that's why people drink lemonade in the summer. But even the rest of the year, it is going to help your digestive tract put out more enzymes and just make your digestive tract a little more juicy. And that's why sours are a staple in Ayurveda. If you open my fridge at any time, you will see either lemons or limes in the fridge. Also, I don't want to neglect that it causes a huge release of bile from the gallbladder, which is just awesome for purging and cleansing the blood. All right. Ayurveda emphasizes eating in tune with the seasons and climate you are in, as well as eating food that's as fresh as possible. I want to just clarify that a little bit, though. Sometimes when you eat food in season, it's the exact opposite of what you need and sometimes it's the exact thing that you need. Some foods match the climate and some foods oppose it. I'll give you an example of two desert plants. Think about a saguaro cactus, right? That classic cactus you see in cartoons with the kind of arms on either side. That is a succulent, right? If you were to cut that open, you'd find all kinds of water inside of it. Now, if you're living in the desert, you want the water that's in the succulent cactus. Okay. So that's an example of a plant that is defending itself by going to the opposite of its climate, and that would be a food that kind of food you would want to eat when you're in the desert. Now let's take contrast that with a tumbleweed. Now tumbleweed says, "Hey, I'm in a dry climate. I'm going to go with the dry climate. I'm going to go with the flow. I'm not going to try to get water in a scarce place or hoard water. I'm just going to go with the flow and be dry too." So if you're in the desert and you're feeling really dry, you're not going to eat a bunch of tumbleweeds because you're going to get drier, right? So the same thing with eating in season. Some foods, when they ripen, are perfect for the season, and the others are perfect for the exact opposite season. And you just have to, over time, you'll get to understand that difference. All right, we've gone through a lot of the preliminaries here. Maximizing nutrients, selecting the freshest ingredients, um, how cooking can change the qualities of food and what roasting does versus fermenting, etc. We've gone over some pantry staples too that you might want to have in your kitchen. And I didn't even discuss spices, right? Let's just not overlook the obvious. Your turmeric, your ginger, cumin, cardamom, I would say, are really critical. Cardamom as a great bronchodilator and mucus destroyer and appetizer. Cumin, a great digestive that warms the body. Ginger, a really strong pungent spice that tastes hot on the tongue, and also a cardiac stimulant, gets your heart pumping, gets things moving. And turmeric, which invigorates the blood and is a strong vasodilator, what I would call a hot bitter. So those are some of your four canonical spices: an aromatic, a pungent, and turmeric as an invigorating spice. And actually, I gave two aromatics: cumin and cardamom. All right, but anyway, yeah, let's continue. How to design a recipe to heal yourself. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that we designed recipes in Ayurveda the same way we design herb formulas. Every recipe that I eat is an herb formula. Okay, I might have some sweet potatoes and one day put some oregano on it, and the next day put some turmeric on it, and the next day put some cardamom on it, and the next day I might not put any spice on it but a little maple syrup, right, and a little bit of coconut oil. Now I'm doing Ayurveda when I do that. I am making herb formulas that are appropriate for whatever I am going through in that moment, um, and uh, and using it to heal myself. All right. So, how do we do herb formulas? Well, we design it for our body type, called our dosha in Ayurveda, and also our imbalanced biocharacteristics, and also for its taste, its metabolic effect, and post digestive effect. Okay. There's more to that story, but I don't want to bombard everybody with too much. And I'm going to just slow down a little bit and explain some of those. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to explain is biocharacteristics. All right. Biocharacteristics is the theory of medicine that Ayurveda uses. So, Ayurveda is the kind of Indian branch of the biocharacteristic theory of medicine. And in the which basically what Ayurveda does is it looks at general characteristics and qualities of food and then classifies them according to those qualities. With I don't want to be too abstract here. Let's jump ahead. What are these different qualities or biocharacteristics? Food is heavy or light. Now, Western medicine talks about calories um, and fats, and they will talk about biochemistry, right? Specific biochemicals. Ayurveda talks about non-specific biocharacteristics. This food is heavy, or this food is light. This food is dull, or this food is sharp. This food is cold, or this food is heating. Right? Cucumbers kind of cool you down, and a chili pepper heats you up. If you were feeling really hot, you wouldn't eat a chili pepper, you'd eat a cucumber. Everybody makes the would or a glass of water, right? You wouldn't eat chili peppers and I don't know, fried sausage if you're feeling hot, right? We and two more biocharacteristics: oily or dry. And there's about 20 biocharacteristics in Ayurveda, and if you look at other biocharacteristics medicine systems like Unani Tib in the Muslim world or Middle East, or Greek medicine in medieval Europe and ancient Greece, you would see slightly different biocharacteristics in those areas, but generally the same principles. Greek medicine, Unani Tib, and Ayurveda all use the same theory of medicine, the biocharacteristics theory of medicine, and Ayurveda is the sort of Indian branch of that. All right, so let's just jump back to our earlier slide here. So these biocharacteristics, just think about it for yourself for a moment. You can do this, right? You know that chili peppers are hot and cucumbers are cold, right? Or you know that popcorn is dry, so you put some butter on it to make it more oily, right? And then we can also assess our whole body. If you have a dryness in your body or oiliness in your body. Now, I promised in the beginning of this talk that I would show you how Ayurveda is almost like too simple and you're like, oh, is that really all it is? Is it these biocharacteristics? And I guess there's not nothing there or something. And I'm just going to say no. It's Ayurveda is very simple. Yes, but as a practitioner, I could give you a 3-hour lecture on the or a 3-hour presentation on all of the fine nuanced effects of cold foods on your body and how to assess cold conditions and what kind of conditions are actually rooted in cold quality, even though you have a fever and are feeling hot. Oftentimes, actually, a fever does come from a cold condition, and so there's a lot of nuances here with biocharacteristics, and but it's so simple to study and so rewarding, and you learn so much about your body very quickly because it's simple, and that's really great. So now let's get back to dosha for a second, or body type. Well, if Ayurveda is all about biocharacteristics and the biocharacteristic theory of medicine, why do we have doshas? Doshas are just groups of biocharacteristics. It turns out that when people are cold all the time, they often get dry, and that stimulates them too. You start to shiver when you're cold, and so stimulation and mobility, cold quality, and dryness all go together, and we call that collection of biocharacteristics vata dosha. Now, pitta is a collection of hot, oily, sharp, light, sour, spreading, and liquid, right? I gave a big list there. I don't, I'm not necessarily teaching you all about the doshas tonight, but just want to give you a feel for what they are, right? They're a collection or a group of biocharacteristics that affects each other. If you are overheated, your body gets also sharper and more irritated, and you start to sweat, which makes your skin oily. And as you sweat, you may start to smell too, and you start to ferment and turn sour. So sourness, heat, oiliness, and sharpness all go together. And there's other qualities in pitta, other qualities in vata, other qualities in kapha, the three basic body types of Ayurveda, which you could loosely translate as deficiency and a sort of hot corruption. This pitta, deficiency is vata, a sort of heat and corruption of the blood is pitta, and kapha is weak adrenals and a buildup of fluids. You could say that those are the three main body types, but they're really rooted in these imbalanced biocharacteristics. And then Ayurveda interprets taste and the metabolic effect, right? Is this food going to spike my metabolism or cool it down or depress it? A bowl of mashed potatoes cools down your metabolism, but a a really spicy turnip is going to fire up your metabolism, right? And then your post-digestive effect is really the effect on your bowels. Are you going to be pooping rabbit pellets or get diarrhea, or is it going to come out like a nice sausage? Sorry to be gross. We talk about poop a lot in Ayurveda. We talk about blood and guts. Ayurveda is beautiful, and Ayurveda makes a person beautiful. But the journey towards that beauty is frank conversations about blood and guts and elimination and all the stuff that you know doctors have to pay attention to, right? That's what we do uh, to help a person. All right, great. So I'm just going to throw it out there. If you want to eat healthy, you have to be a good herbalist. Okay. In the Western model, we talk about nutritional labels, which is biochemicals, macronutrients, vitamins and minerals, calories, proteins, fats, etc. Ayurveda's nutritional label, if it had such a thing, would be feelings and effects, these biocharacteristics: heaviness and lightness, sharpness and dullness, hot and cold, wet and dry, whether fluids are thickening or whether they're thinning. Okay? So, Ayurveda, again, is that Indian branch of the biocharacteristics theory of medicine. The whole world used that, or at least I shouldn't say the whole world. Um, because I don't really know what medicine system was happening in North and South America in the ancient world, and whether they were using biocharacteristics. I should study a little more about Aztec medicine um, and South American or Peruvian medicine. But in the Silk Road cultures from Europe all the way through to India, and to a slightly lesser extent, China and Chinese medicine as well, the biocharacteristics theory of medicine was the dominant theory of medicine for nearly 1,800 years, lasting until about the 1600s AD. So from 200 BC to about 1650, and it was abruptly abandoned due to advancements in biochemistry and also because of a flawed understanding of the humors in Greek medicine. And that's what gave way to Western medicine. Now, there were some awesome advancements in Western medicine. And at the Joyful Belly School, we are definitely not against Western medicine. We believe in integration, and we also believe that, like, you need a whole treatment team for wellness. And so we're not, us versus them or anything like that. There are some things that I don't think are that healthy in Western medicine, but there are a lot of things that are really awesome, and especially their diagnostic tools, which I love to see Western diagnostics. It's awesome. But in any case, there was a lot of advancement, and people get really excited when something great comes along, right? And they could forget the greatness of other things that have been around for a really long time, right? Other things that are just as great, just as awesome, but because there's something new and exciting, they can get neglected and kind of go into almost almost disappear even, right? But I think this biocharacteristic theory of medicine is very relevant for people, especially at home, because you may not have a blood testing equipment in your house, or you may not have a CAT scan in your house, and you may not have access to day-to-day diagnostic tools. And so you want to use these biocharacteristics to interpret what's happening in your body. And that's going to be um, a really great thing for you to do, and really healing. Okay, so in the biocharacteristics theory of medicine in Ayurveda, we name diseases by the imbalanced characteristics. So where Western medicine calls a cold a rhinovirus, Ayurveda calls it a cold, right? In fact, some of the old names of diseases have survived that 1600 AD, shift towards Western medicine. And so now they call it a rhinovirus, but we call it a cold, and everyday people call it a cold because when you get cold outside, you catch that rhinovirus, you catch the cold. And so it's more useful for everyday folks to call it a cold rather than a rhinovirus. Now, Western medicine likes to name things after the bacteria involved because they have antibiotics. We name things after the biocharacteristics because that's what we can change at home, right? And so we classify food, lifestyle, and herbs the same way. Pomegranates happen to be cooling and sour, so we call it a cooling sour, and we call turmeric a hot bitter, and that tells us exactly what its pharmacological effects are. And we're going to choose remedies that are usually opposite to the biocharacteristics. So if you have a hot rash that's really angry all over your whole body, you're going to use a cooling herb, right? If you just ran through a poison ivy patch and you have poison ivy all over your body, you're not going to rub chili peppers on that. You're going to probably put like slices of cucumber or even slices of potato or even cabbage leaves. Very soothing, really nice feeling on a rash. All right. So, yeah, if you take one thing from this lecture, it is eat according to biocharacteristics and the tastes of food. And that's going to be, even if you just do that for the next 20 years, you're going to be halfway there towards an Ayurvedic lifestyle, right? And you are going to feel so much better because, well, it was the dominant model for 1800 years for a reason. So let's talk a little bit about the effects of some of these biocharacteristics. And and then we'll close for today. So heavy foods tend to stabilize and ground a person. That's why people eat a bowl of mashed potatoes or French fries when they feel stressed out, right? They eat those comfort foods because heavy food grounds and stabilizes and it strengthens. Light foods cleanse and diminish, right? We eat them to lose weight. Dull foods are coating and soothing, like yogurt, cheese, and even oatmeal, whereas sharp foods irritate, flush, and stimulate, like chili and black pepper. Cold foods contract and dry and can soothe a hot rash, and they also slow things down. Heat expands, flushes, and inflames. Oily foods nourish, moisturize, and can also clog, where dry foods absorb and causes early aging and are harsh. Now, there's another 12 biocharacteristics in classical Ayurveda, and sometime we'll get a chance to talk about them. Let's talk a little bit about the six tastes. So, bitter taste cleanses and stimulates and builds energy. So, that would be example of that would be kale, dandelion, or bitter melon. If you've never had a bitter melon, wow, it's really bitter. Astringent foods tone and dry things out. So legumes, pomegranates, and fresh greens. If you ever have a bean and you take some beans and hold them in your hand for just a few minutes, they'll stick to each other and they'll stick to your hand and they'll really kind of dry out your hand. And if you hold some, make like split green peas someday and hold it in your tongue for a little bit, and you'll feel like a tightening effect on your tongue. That's the astringency, kind of like an unripe banana. Pungent spices invigorate and stimulate. Salty foods hydrate and flush, right? If you take very salty foods, you'll get loose stools and it'll flush you out. Sour, I've talked about already, and sweet builds and nourishes, right? This is really simple and it should be simple, right? Health should be simple. And I'll also mention that as a practitioner, again, I could give you a 3 hour presentation on cold quality in the body. And that richness that Ayurveda brings is built off of some very simple paradigm that just keeps growing. So, in your kitchen, you want to make sure that you have foods for all of the six tastes: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. That's important in Ayurveda, right? Analyze your cravings. What tastes are you hunkering for? If you want some ice cream, what is it that you're really craving? Are you craving heaviness, or are you craving oiliness? Are you craving sweetness, and why? Right? Take that moment to discern your cravings and then find a healthy, good way to satisfy your body. So your body tends to crave superlatives. So when it wants, nourishment and grounding and stability, it goes right for the ice cream. But it may be that that's something else, like a sweet potato would satisfy you also, and give you that same belly satisfaction without the harm that ice cream might cause. Okay, so use your analysis to pick the right food. If you're feeling cold, add spices. If you're feeling puffy, eat drying foods. If you have dry skin, eat oily foods. Very simple, very powerful way to go. So this has been a brief taste of the kind of analysis that we do in Ayurveda. And as a part of our digestion program, you'll actually be, when you do your body awareness experiments in the course, as you're studying, you'll actually be participating in novel research. Every year, we publish about 80 research studies on different foods so that we can make this available to the public, and the kinds of qualities and effects that the biocharacteristic theory of medicine can offer to a person's health. And that's really exciting that as a school, we get to do that. So, and we'll talk about advanced ways for recipe design, and specifically all of the great ways of improving your digestion, and 30 major digestive tract pathologies, which are really patterns for even for most digestive disorders that you would encounter in a clinical practice. Whether you're a medical doctor, a nurse providing quality of life care, or you are a health and wellness enthusiast and who wants to be able to offer this to clients with a really strong clinical background in digestion, Ayurvedic food and nutrition, the Joyful Belly Ayurveda School is the way to go for that. Um, and you'll get a lot out of the program. It'll be really exciting. And I look forward to seeing you in class, which starts in about 4 weeks from today. So uh, so I look forward to seeing any of you who are interested. And thank you for your interest in health. They say disease is contagious, but health is also contagious. When you start to heal and when you start to feel good, look good, and are happier, people are naturally drawn to that. So thank you for being a part of spreading the word just by showing up today. And I also want to especially thank you for choosing Joyful Belly and choosing to learn from me. I love to teach, and I love to teach people about food, and I love food in general. So thank you all, everyone. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'm going to stay on the line and open up the lines for conversation. So hold on one second. Feel free to ask questions. You can post your question in the chat or say it out loud. Just remember to unmute yourself if you're going to say it out loud.
Hi there, John.
Hi, Anu.
Hi. Could you talk about lectins and beans and even mung beans and lectins and what are lectins? Why does it have a
Okay,
bad
so that's a more a Western nutrition question. As I said before, like in Ayurveda, we deal more with biocharacteristics of food, and so I don't study lectins. I don't have a perspective on lectins.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I know there are a lot of questions, I'm sure. Just adding on to the Ayurvedic perspective, how can we cook beans, especially say mung beans, to reduce the fattiness?
Okay. Yeah.
Spices.
Great. Hold on one second. There's some background. I'm just going to mute all the lines, but you can unmute it if you want. Yeah, I have written on Joyful Belly a whole article on how to make beans more digestible. And there are several factors. The first thing you do is you cook your beans for about 10 minutes until the water turns sudsy. And then you pour off that water and then start with fresh water because the saponins in the beans are what make it very difficult to digest. And those saponins are water soluble. So when you cook the bean for about 20 minutes or 10 minutes, those saponins come out into solution and you pour off that water. That right there makes them much easier to digest. I always use a pungent and an aromatic when I'm trying to make the beans digestible. So a pungent like ginger or black pepper that tastes spicy on your tongue, and then an aromatic, something that has a strong smell to it, like cinnamon or cardamom or cumin or just any of your spices that have a strong smell. Oregano or thyme are just as good. So, so yeah, I put an aromatic as well as a pungent. I put enough salt in, and I put a little bit of sugar in too. Just a little bit of sweetener in the bean pot. I find that that helps with digesting beans, and especially because they can be a little drying. So that's helpful, and sometimes I will put a little bit of baking soda in the beans, and that neutralizes some of the acids in the bean and makes it more digestible. And then cooking it for a long time, that it can also help. So those are some ideas, but check on the Joyful Belly website on how to make beans more digestible. I wrote a whole article on it, and there's some other great tips in there, including you can always add foods that have some digestive enzyme capacity in it to the bean, like pineapple, for example. Having sitting beans overnight in some pineapple juice will actually pre-digest a lot of the proteins in it, and that makes it more easily digestible too. So check that out. Thank you for your question.
So hi there.
Hi.
I'm quite ill. Um,
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, I mean, I'm having severe bloating
Hmm.
and, just the level of gas, just tremendous amount of gas, that, if I get to fart and belch is helpful.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm just at my wit's end in terms of I'm trying to be very conscientious.
Have you
Um,
ever tried an elimination diet?
we'll say more.
Okay, an elimination diet is when you find some safety ingredients that are a chicken soup is an example without the grains, because I don't know if you're allergic to rice or grains, but say chicken soup with some carrots and sweet potatoes or something like that, and you eat that for about 3 days. Really simple, easy to digest, and you see if your body can handle it. And if it can, then you sort of use that as a base and slowly build from there. That's how you generally try to fix weak digestion causing gas and bloating. I don't know the cause of your gas and bloating. You could have a parasite, you could have food allergies, you could have atrophy of the digestive organ. So I don't really know the answer without a full consultation. Uh, but but just off the bat, an elimination diet might be a good first starting point to see if your body can tolerate even a simple diet.
So chicken soup, I mean, we have a chicken. Um, yeah, chicken soup with you're suggesting, I mean, it
Yeah, sweet
like
potatoes, and maybe you can put some kale in there, something like that.
kale. Uh-huh. Any like onions, garlic, or leaving out those sorts
I
of
mean, you
things?
could leave out, yeah, I don't know. If I wouldn't make it more complicated, you could put some black pepper in there.
Uh-huh. Okay, sweet potato and carrots. All right. I mean, the my mother it was funny. My mother came to me, sort of like almost in a walking dream and said, you know, eat some chicken soup.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, for a few
yeah,
days, you eat something very simple and give your body a chance to recover and see if that doesn't help. And then you know it's food related. If you still have gas and bloating, even with that very simple diet, then you're going to suspect something like parasites or some other sort of pathology going on.
right. Yeah. Do you take the fat off the chicken soup?
Not for my body. I like the fat. I need
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting idea. Thank you. Yeah, I know this has been going on for
Hmm.
I suppose 6 weeks now.
Okay,
So
so it's still relatively new. Have you and if it if it does persist, again, like I said, we're not doing a consultation, so I don't know if you have
right.
a medical condition. If you have a medical condition, you should see a medical doctor. But if such a thing were happening to me, I would have the elimination diet, see how that does, and if that doesn't work, then I probably would go to a gastroenterologist and get a stool test and just start figuring out a complete, no, not just stool tests for parasites, but also for other GI function, things like that, to see what might be going on, so that you get a diagnosis and then you can choose a plan of action.
Yeah. Yeah, but meanwhile, it's like waiting for the medical profession and having appointments and la la la. Meanwhile, you got to do something.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, if you meet with an Ayurveda practitioner, they will give you lots of things to do in the interim.
Uh-huh. Celery? Is celery okay in chicken
It's a good
soup?
question. Celery is a strong diuretic and a vasodilator. Some people, if they have excess water, then the celery is going to drain them, and that will actually refresh them and make them feel good. For other people, and especially this time of year in September, celery could increase a tendency towards insomnia, which people have this time of year because of the dryness of the season. And so you
Mm,
have to look at your individual constitution and see if celery would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Any other kinds of potatoes?
What?
Potatoes, same thing. White potatoes are a little bit more astringent than sweet potatoes. Really high in potassium, although sweet potatoes have a fair amount of potassium too. So we're going to have a little more of a diuretic action, those potatoes will. So you just have to be careful of the astringency with potatoes and make sure you're taking enough sodium with it too. So if you are that dried out body type, um, salt is not going to be a problem for blood pressure for people who have a truly dry constitution. So they can have a little bit more salt with their potatoes so that it doesn't cause too much fluid loss.
How about yellow potatoes?
Well, my husband is asking about yellow.
I can hear all the foods in the background. I know. I couldn't hear it. He said something yellow something, but I couldn't quite hear it.
He said yellow potatoes as opposed
I don't know.
to
I don't
potatoes.
know. Yeah, I have to look up the differences with the yellow one. I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, I think
I
sweet
try to know
potatoes
everything about
more
all the
yummy.
different foods, but it's but there's so many varieties and things too.
Yeah, yeah. We're in Portland, Oregon.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I how do I find an Ayurvedic medical
You can
person?
Google it. And also, if you email study@joyfulbelly.com and ask for a recommendation, we can send you one of our graduates who will meet with you over the phone.
Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, really.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Now, I see Debbie here has a question that she wrote in. I had a consultation with the Vaidya who suggested a Vata Pitta pacifying diet. She gave me a list of suitable and unsuitable foods. What can I eat for protein? I see only meat is eliminated and tofu is eliminated. I think you said you have a vegan diet. I see only mung beans and adzuki beans. Adzuki I cannot easily get where I live. So I lean to the vegan diet. Yeah, beans are an important protein source for vegans. And so that would be, but you do eat tofu and soy occasionally. So I would say beans probably will be a major protein source for you. And yeah, I think that's going to be the main one. If you're vegan, yeah, because cheese is another great protein source. Also nuts, but cheese is dairy, so you're not going to be having that. So nuts would be your next source. So I would have nuts and beans. Yeah, I hope that helps. Even peanut butter. Peanut butter is a bean, right? Peanuts are beans. They're not nuts. There's nothing nut about peanuts. They're a bean. And they're high in protein and oily.
Hello, this is Debbie. Can I speak to you?
Sure.
I couldn't find the
Debbie.
place. I couldn't find the place to unmute myself, and you're probably going to hear sound in the background. Yikes! They're in this diet, and she recommended some supplements that I was amazed in the first week things turned around, but there are no nuts. There are only macadamia nuts. I cannot find one macadamia nut here where I live. It's very limiting. And
Where do you live?
I live in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So sometimes it depends on, like with the adzuki beans and the macadamia nuts, if there's been a shipment or not. I don't know. It just seems kind of odd they're not available, but I hope they will be, or I can just eventually order online. But I will be meeting with her by phone soon. And I'm going to ask about the protein thing, because in my last blood work, it said low in protein. I asked the doctor about that, and he said, yes, that is a reflection of you're not eating protein. This is what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
So it's a balance between what she is trying to correct and what I can eat. I just try not to eat a lot of those things, but
yeah, it's vegan diet is hard on the body. It is. There's no two ways about it. You have hemp seed. You can do.
Yeah, hemp seed.
There's options for quinoa. Quinoa is a great protein source. But it is it is tough. So your options are a little limited. So yeah, you can source that Um, by just ordering it. See if you can find
Yeah.
someone to ship you a 25-pound bag of some food like split mung beans, or you can
Yeah, that's the
find
other one
split
I
mung
haven't
beans
found.
in a sort of wholesale quality, like a wholesale
Yeah.
quantity.
Yeah, that would be good because I really like them and I found I can get the dry, the green ones, the ones with the skin, I guess what you call on them.
Yeah,
And I
those are
like
harder
them.
to digest, but if you can digest them, great.
Yeah, so far I've been successful with that.
Okay,
So
great.
I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
This was a wonderful lecture.
Yeah, and Wendy, and you can see some of the other folks on the call are just chiming in also with some good ideas. Wendy says there's a lot of protein in greens, for example. So,
Okay,
Wendy,
and
you
you,
might want to, if you want to type in for Debbie, which greens specifically
mhm.
are high in protein, that might be helpful. I know lamb's quarters is a weed that grows everywhere in this country, and it has a lot of protein in it. And I have a ton of it in my yard because I don't weed it. I weed the other weeds that aren't high in protein.
Yeah, there are some things here, something at one time I thought was just a weed and I was pulling it out and a friend said, no, you can eat that. Don't pull it out. So we started cooking it.
Yeah, great.
Purslane, you probably know
Purslane,
purslane,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, purslane's another
But I don't
helpful
know
weed.
about lamb's quarters and I'm gonna look it up and see if
Lamb
it's,
quarters is a superfood. It's North American quinoa, basically. It's the same
oh,
plant family as quinoa, and the
okay.
leaf, as well as the grain of it, is very nutritious. A superfood. It's a superfood.
Okay.
So everyone should know lamb's quarters and start growing it in their yard. And then just when you want a salad that's super nutritious, just pick lamb's quarters from your yard. Just don't put pesticides on it if you're planning on eating it.
Good idea.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you very much. And those that are offering suggestions, thank you. I'll take note
Oh,
of this.
great. Yeah, I see some other suggestions from
Yeah.
Wendy here too. Nice. Thank you,
Okay,
Wendy, for
great.
your help.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, John. I have a question. Let's say somebody has been using khichdi as a diagnostic tool, just like the chicken soup you just recommended earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is working perfectly all right. But then when they try to reintroduce certain things, like, for example, ghee or coconut oil, that's causing mucus and loose stools, whereas canola oil is not really causing any problems, or let's say they introduce milk and milk is causing problems, like something apart from the digestive system. So where is Ayurveda? Is strengthening Agni going to solve? Is doing something
Not
about the
necessarily. Not necessarily. It won't necessarily solve it. If you have an allergen to the food or an intolerance to the food, increasing Agni might fix it. But and you can also do things to reduce the sensitivity of your nervous system. Like I used to be allergic to cats, but after taking measures to heal my liver, I'm not allergic to cats anymore. And that's just reduced. There are ways to reduce the sensitivity of your nervous system, but it wouldn't be through building Agni. That would be through the liver, tonifying and soothing and healing the liver. So, or at least what Ayurveda refers to as liver function. So yeah, so there's a little nuances there. And if you can only eat one thing, even if you go on an elimination diet and everything goes away, and then anything else you add, the symptoms come back, you could still have pathology there, because most people can do well with some easy, simple food. But if your system is really weak, then there may be pathology involved, and not to rule that out too soon, or just try to do the Ayurveda alone for 10 years, and then you have a chronic condition, right? So you want to do what you can at home. If you're doing a very appropriate and easy to digest diet, and you've tried all the things, and you still have lots of sensitivities, get your stool test, and try to get some testing done, figure it out, and then decide on a course of action. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, John, can I ask you a question? Can you
Yes.
hear me? Okay, great. First, I want to thank you. I know a little bit about Ayurveda, so I wasn't going to come because I knew it was an introduction, more or less an introduction, and I have learned quite a lot. So thank you.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
yeah, so okay. I similar to the other woman that just spoke. I have a lot of digestive problems, and I am getting tested and trying to figure out what's
Hmm.
going on. But so I have several. I could ask you a lot of questions, but the first one, a simple one. Well, it's not simple, but it's straightforward. Is that and I've also lost a lot of weight, and I eat
Mm.
a lot. I
And you
used to
what a
be,
lot?
I eat a lot. I mean, not like more than most people, but I eat a full meal. But it's
Yeah.
but I used to be my whole life. I was about 128. Now I'm 104, and so there's issues going on. One
When did
thing
this weight loss happen? Was this very recent or
it's
suddenly
happened.
or
It was gradual. About it started about 2 years ago. I've been dealing with this digestive issue for
hmm
a couple of years. I have what's called SIBO. I don't know if you know what that is.
I do, yeah.
You do? Okay, so I
Yeah,
have that.
small intestine bacteria overgrowth.
Right. And so okay, so I'm very attracted to butter, and I want to find out one. I know it's not a great thing to eat that much. I don't eat that much of it, but I put it on practically everything. But I eat lactose-free butter.
Now, have you seen any physician so
Yes,
far over the last 2 years?
I have, and they have not
Okay.
been very. I work with a naturopath, and I'm on right now. I'm on a cleansing diet, but it's
Okay. I just want to make sure because weight loss, without an explanation is, that is an alarm sign, right? That's something where you're like, could be cancer or something like that. So you do want to get weight loss checked out, unless you have a really clear reason why you're losing weight. And you said SIBO. Are you getting lots of diarrhea?
I'm getting right now in the past few months. Actually, after I got after I got the vaccine, I was trying to figure out when this. I've always had digestive issues since I was a kid,
Uh
but
huh.
uh, I don't know. And I'm very happy I got the vaccine. I believe in the vaccine, but I think that did something else to me because I know I got weaker after that. Now I do have doctors. I have to change insurance because they're not helping me. They
Mm.
basically, gave me, an internal exam about a year ago, and they didn't find anything wrong. But obviously, there's something wrong, and
So wait a
I
second, you're
don't,
saying the symptoms started after you got the COVID vaccine?
they got worse.
It got worse. Okay, so it didn't start then, but it got
Yeah,
it
it
got
got worse.
worse.
It got
Yeah,
worse
yeah.
because I started losing more weight and had difficulty with.
Hmm.
So um, I'm very, I'm hungry. Like right now, I just had a full dinner, healthy dinner. I eat very healthy,
Okay, yeah.
and
So the question, that's why I asked about diarrhea and things like that, because are you getting the nutrients from the food, right? So the
well,
thing
I don't
is
think
like,
I am. It's just because like you just mentioned quinoa. I have quinoa crisps that I love to have in the morning, but when I go to the bathroom now, I've noticed it just comes out just like I looks just like I ate it. So
yeah,
I'm not
yeah. So
digesting.
so yeah. So the challenge is not how much you eat, but actually getting something from the food you're
Yes,
eating.
yes, and I need to actually. I don't have that much money, and I have the insurance I have now. You know what Kaiser is, right? Kaiser Health Hospital. Anyway,
Yeah.
probably
I don't. What I would
okay.
say is, look,
Yeah,
Joyful Belly has a ton of free content on the website. If
okay,
you're, and if you're, if you don't have the finances to invest in a consultation with a practitioner, you can find tons of information on there, and you can look up all the easy to digest foods on there. You can.
okay.
I don't know if do I have any great strategies for SIBO on the website. I do have an article on gas and bloating. If you look up gas and joyful belly, if you Google that, you'll
Okay.
probably find the page, and it has pretty. I think that page has decent info on it. To help you with some ideas. So you could check that out. And I think I there's on that page there may be a presentation for sale that I put together on that subject. So you'll learn a ton of stuff from that.
Okay. And is yeah, I craving butter, and the other thing I crave is I have almond butter. It's organic. Everything I eat is
Yeah.
organic. But is that
Well,
could that
coconut oil is easier to digest than butter. One. So coconut oil is something that I would go to instead of butter if you're craving oily.
right? Okay. I
Yeah, it's
love
just
butter, but
easier. So get the calories because what you're looking for is right is like easy calories, right? How can you get the nutrients out of the food before the bacteria get it instead of you?
yeah, and it just it's I have a big dinner, but then I'm still after I eat, like just now, I finished eating, and I went for the almond butter.
Yeah.
That satisfied me.
Yeah, well, the almond butter can, yeah. So we have to figure out what's going on there. There could be some. The almond butter could be an irritant. If yeah, because I'm assuming it's butter with that was ground with the skins on it. So that could be a little bit of an irritant. You have to find the right foods that are going to give you the calories without irritating the system. Almond butter is not that irritating, but I don't know how. But it sounds like your condition's a little bit severe since you're losing all this weight.
Yeah,
So you have to be more careful than the average person, right? It may be that of the 61 people who are still on the call, only 3 or 4 have to be really careful, and you may be one of them. If you've been losing all that weight and you're down to 104, I think that's a little bit alarming. I would get that. I would definitely be spending time and money to invest on that to
yeah,
make sure that you can build yourself back up. That seems like an important investment right now.
yeah. I agree, and thank you for the support. And I'll go online, and I may get a consultation with someone,
Yeah.
and maybe even go to your class because I do believe in Ayurvedic medicine. I know enough about it to know how good it is.
Yeah,
I'm a
people take
total,
the course for their own
yeah,
personal health, if they have a severe digestive issue, and you just learn a ton of stuff about that over the year, um and people do get health improvements out of it. So
and I'm a Vata. Does that make sense to everything that I told you? I mean,
yeah,
give me
yeah, 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 that would be my guess from what you told me.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so also don't forget that rubbing oil over your skin
mm,
um is in a way a sort of backdoor way to get more calories, because your
really?
body will spend less time oiling your skin if you oil your skin, and that means you won't be losing fats as much.
Oh, that's a
So
good
yeah,
idea.
oil your skin, and that will help satisfy you and warm you up and all that.
And
Do you
it
mind?
gets you.
Do you mind if I chime in? Have you been tested for parasites?
I have,
Yeah.
but
Speci-
yeah, I know.
Specifically, like Entamoeba fragilis. Make sure you've been tested for Entamoeba fragilis.
Genova Diagnostics has a really great panel called GI Effects.
Yeah, I did it. That's the one I
You did
took.
it. Okay, that's the one you did. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
great.
did. And, unfortunately, my naturopath is far away and expensive, and I can't really. That test is so hard to figure out for a regular person. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, she told me no parasites, but I'm concerned about it because I itch a lot, and sometimes I see a little black thing come up on my arm. I mean, just
Oh yeah. Okay.
so. Anyway, thank you, whoever mentioned that. I'll look into that again.
Yeah.
Hi, John. I have a question. So when you're constructing a recipe, is it the quantity of a particular ingredient with a particular dosha quality determine the net effect of the dosha of all the ingredients? Or is it like, because sometimes I see they say for pitta, just leave the mustard out. Does that come down to that, not the quantity, but just the ingredient itself?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Before I answer that, I want to answer a question that I saw fly by a few times in the chat, which is people who have to cook for people with multiple body types in their family, and this is related to what you're saying because you're talking about, oh, leave the mustard out for a pitta person, and I just want to say that you can make a base of the meal that's relatively tridoshic or for all body types. Like take something like a chicken soup with sweet potato, not particularly aggravating to any dosha. And then at the table, you serve the chicken soup, and the vata person's going to put a ton of oil on it, and the kapha person will put more spices, and the pitta person might put some cilantro on it, or have a cucumber on the side, and that's generally how you do that. So my wife, when she cooks a meal for our family, with 5 kids and me and her, she's the exact opposite constitution of me. There's a kind of opposites attract where we're kind of have a very similar mindset about things, but our body types are really different. And that's what she does. She'll make something that is relatively tridoshic, and then at the table, we'll garnish it with things that are make it work for our dosha. Now, let me move attention over to Andy's question, which is it the quantity that determines the net effect and the quality? Yeah, yes, exactly. Black pepper is very strongly pungent, but a turnip is not quite as pungent. So you need to get more turnip to have the same degree of pungency as you would in black pepper. And then, you might need to have one half or 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and one whole turnip might have equivalency in terms of pungency. So you're going to look at the strength of the biocharacteristic in the food, and that's going to help you determine quantities so that it all measures out. So you might have something like a cucumber, again, for cooling, and put just a little, I don't know, some black pepper on it for flavor. But if it's a small amount, it's not going to be too hot, right? And so yeah, you're kind of mixing and matching in that way and thinking along those lines. So Andy, I think you got it.
So if I do deep fried foods and I'm a kapha person, I can do some compensatory thing to just kind of
Well,
offset.
deep fried foods, yeah, you can try to compensate, but deep fried foods ultimately is going to aggravate kapha. You can't remove something like that. So yeah, nothing's going to take the calories out of the food, right? Certain things you can change and certain things you can't. Like, for example, you can eat a ton of cucumbers and it's not going to, in the end, destroy the heat of black pepper, right? A single little teaspoon of black pepper is gonna just blow the cucumbers out of the water, right? So cold quality is really easy to heat up, right? But you can't make something hot cold. So it's easy to heat up the cucumber, very hard to cool down the black pepper. So certain qualities are easy to change in the food and others aren't. If you have oil in the food, you can throw a whole salad on top of it, but you still had that oil, right? And the bitters will help with processing the oil slightly, but kapha is still going to absorb it and it's still going to aggravate their constitution.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Gita asks in the chat, what are some possible reasons for feeling tired and foggy headed after eating? Quite simply, Gita, all your energy and blood goes to your stomach after a meal, and there's not as much for your brain. And then when your blood sugar level rises and your blood gets a little more stagnant and sluggish, that can also prolong the effects. So if you have weak digestion and you're a vata person, you'll get tired after eating. If you're a kapha person, you'll get more stagnant after eating. In both cases, you might feel a little tired.
I have I don't know. Yeah, I have a question. I put it I guess I just put it to you for some reason. But anyway, I have pancreatitis. It's kind of chronic at this point. It's been going on for months, and I've
Mm.
seen a surgeon who said that, they can't do anything about it, right? They think, they haven't found gallstones, and I don't drink, and so they don't know what the cause is, but they're thinking, well, maybe there's sludge in the pancreatic duct. But anyway, they can't do any. They've ordered an MRI, which I'm waiting for, and meanwhile, she said you got to get that pancreas.
Pancreatitis is a serious issue.
I know. I'm
That's
in a
another
lot.
serious issue. So that's something I wouldn't wait on, and I wouldn't go to your local hospital on it either.
Oh,
I would go to, I would find the local community hospitals sometimes are not go to a good hospital is what I'm saying.
well, I live in the
Pancreatitis can be
capital.
life-threatening, and I would get on that. Yeah, that's something that you wanna, don't do the MRI in 2 weeks. I would just do the MRI quickly and learn it and do whatever you need to do to help with that because what happens with pancreatitis is your pancreas auto digests itself
Yeah.
and
No.
then and you need it to digest your food. It's an essential organ. So
Right. I mean, but the thing is, I live in the capital of my province. I'm in Canada, and I went to the main hospital here, and
oh, you did. Okay, good,
so I
good. I
don't have
just want to make sure
insurance
you're
for
getting good
anywhere
care.
else. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's just the thing in Canada. You wait forever and ever. But he said they can't do anything except for just, I don't know. Look, they can't do any kind of going inside because it's too dangerous if the pancreas is so inflamed. And I'm
I
like, well,
know.
what's
It's
causing it to
that's
be
the thing with the
inflamed?
pancreas is that you can't like if you touch it and it'll just like turn to mush.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm not allowed to have any fat. She said this could take up to 12 weeks, and I've lost all kinds of weight. My ribs are starting to show, and
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of
Can you get
pain.
across the border and get some health care in the United States?
Well, that's going to be exceedingly expensive, and that would,
Yeah.
I don't even want to go to the US right now with the whole pandemic thing. And
Yeah, you'll be under quarantine and all that.
yeah, so anyway, I mean, food is just so hard to figure out what to eat. I mean, I'm freezing cold. I got a hat on. I mean, and it's still summer and I'm freezing cold. I got 3 layers on it.
Yeah.
But my pancreas is inflamed, so I can barely stand to eat anything. And like I have this huge garden, I can't stand to eat anything in it except for the chard. And I practically picked that and the deer have gotten all. And so I'm just trying to figure out how I can get nutrients into my body and also not aggravate things. I mean, because the
Yeah.
pancreas complains that that's hot, but I'm feeling freezing cold. So I don't know
Yeah,
if
I mean, for Ayurveda is not is very individualistic, so I don't want to tell you something and then your pancreas gets worse. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So that's a little bit of a challenge. If you want to try to make an appointment with me, I can, we can kind of go through the whole, go through everything and see, kind of what's happening. I mean, I'm happy to do an appointment with you. But I can't just rattle off something off the phone for that because you know what I mean? It's a little more of a serious nature.
right.
In general, the general way Ayurveda would handle that is reducing pitta dosha, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the general thing. But if we apply just a general principle in your case and it doesn't work out, that could be a real problem. So so that's why I don't want to just, again, rattle that off. But like, if I was like stranded on a desert island somewhere and I would probably eat an anti-inflammatory diet, antioxidants, nothing that would nothing very provocative or intense in any direction.
Hmm.
Nothing that's gonna no allergens or no food that's made me feel bad in the past, and I would just stick to something pretty simple and to get my system to calm down. And that's what you want, to get the system to calm down and stop this process. So Yeah, that would be something where we'd need to, like, again, troubleshoot it. Um, just a little more of a fine tooth comb. And I don't know that I would be able to help you. I don't know that. That would be something I would try my best, but I don't know that I would be able to help you with that.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my strategy would be, yeah, those antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, and pitta pacifying kinds of things, and then giving you something like, yeah, you said no fat, so coconut oil is out for again, an easy digestible calories. You'd have to find some. I use sweet potatoes as another one that you've heard me mention even on the call already tonight. But sweet potato, yeah, we'd
Yeah.
have to just take a look, and then you have to check all the recommendations. Like if you meet with another practitioner, or even if you meet with me, you're gonna have to do the homework and check it against, some good Google research, because the practitioner is not likely to know the specific foods that are good in a pancreatitis situation, because it's a very specific situation.
Right. So,
So
when
you just want to participate. In other words, in that case, you just want to participate and not just take the person's, recommendations for gospel, but make sure that it's going to work for you.
right, right. Okay. Yeah. All
Yeah,
right. Thank you very much.
yeah, yeah. So send me an email on that if you could, and we can sort of take that conversation offline a little bit, and we'll see what we can do. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Do you have my email?
Yeah, well, I've been getting emails from, I mean, the email like that got sent out to invite us to this. Is
Okay.
that your email?
Yeah, yeah, it's john@joyfulbelly.com. You can reply to
Yeah.
that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So yeah, same thing. Amber is writing, my husband has chronic lymphocytic leukemia. So again, these are really advanced conditions, and Ayurveda is individualistic, right? If Amber, if I could just answer what would be good for chronic lymphocytic leukemia, you would be able to Google it, and it would be on a Western medical webpage somewhere. But Ayurveda is individualistic, and so um, no, 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 you don't have to say sorry. It's a great question. I wish I could give you something, but the thing is anything I could give you would be something that you could just Google, because but Ayurveda is going to work on a more individualistic level. So the general Ayurveda paradigm for cancer is reduced toxicity in the body. And if you're doing chemotherapy or something like that, then you don't want to take to toxicants. You just want to make sure you're not adding toxins at all to the body, and there's a strategy for that, Amber. So that's what we would have to individualize, um, and again, we're going to be, that's the sort of thing where you work in a treatment team. You can do diets like the Gerson therapy diet is an anti-cancer diet, and Ayurveda will add its 2 cents in Western medicine, and we'll kind of work on it as a group. So
John, I have a question on vata pushing pitta disorders.
yes,
When do you stop pacifying the pitta? Let's say things are getting better. Where do you do that? Is it like a test that helps you, whatever, test for inflammation, or what is it that determines the endpoint for pacification of pitta?
well, I think you in a way you already know that. Like if your pitta is pacified and you're feeling good, you can relax a little bit. And then, and you might do that cautiously in the beginning, and then you'll slowly, move on. You don't want to just stay stuck and doing the same, keep pacifying pitta forever when it doesn't need to be pacified anymore. But generally, if you're not irritated, emotional intensity is down, and you're not overheated, or you're not getting inflammation and burning and things like that, then, you can do it a little bit longer just to make sure, but then, start to move on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi,
Thank you,
John.
everybody. Oh, yeah. Is there another question?
Hi, just a real quick question, if that's
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
Yes.
hi. Thank you so much for this. It's been so amazing. I'm Paige, and
Hi, Paige.
I just ended a 21-day water fast, but I actually
Hmm.
had to end it on the 20th day because I broke out with all sorts of rashes for like the past 4 days. But and apparently it was because my body wasn't releasing toxins. So now I have
Well,
like really.
sometimes it's cleansing as can cause as many problems as it fixes, and it's always there's always
Mm,
a kind of buzz around cleansing, and people can think that like cleansing helps everybody, especially a cleansing should be avoided in deficient people. If a person's vata and has a lot of deficiency, cleansing is not for them. Vata people don't need to detox; they just need to avoid retox. Right? They need to have a diet that's appropriate for them that doesn't cause gas and bloating, and doesn't create more toxins for them. But usually, they've eliminated most of their toxins quite easily. It's kapha people that have the trouble with releasing toxins. So I get in my clinic a lot of times vata people cleansing when really they need to tonify. So you tonify deficiency and you cleanse excess. Just to be thinking about that paradigm. So if you got a rash from cleansing too much, that's probably because your organs became a little too deficient and couldn't do their job well, and then you had what you would call in Chinese medicine a yin deficient heat. And that's my immediate guess when someone says that they broke out into a rash after a lengthy cleanse.
oh, that's really interesting. It was for me, it was more like just a fast and not a cleanse, but definitely was very deficient. That was
Yeah.
something I found online. So now I'm starting the refeeding process, and I just can't eat food because I literally only drank water for 20 days.
Yeah.
And now it's so I started just drinking bone broth, like beef or chicken bone broth. And then today I had a date, and like everything seems to have digested well. Like I have no issues. I don't know if you have any Ayurvedic, um, like just opinions on what to start eating with. I'm more of a
Yeah,
kapha
easy to digest
person.
foods. This is called
Yeah.
some Sarjana Krama um, in Ayurveda. Is how do you come off of a fast? Is it karma or krama? I'm not really sure on the spelling on the second word. I can't remember. I have to look it up again, but I think it's krama. But oh, it's sending it to everybody in the waiting room for some reason. I don't know why it's writing to everyone in the waiting room, but let me just send you that spelling. But yeah, you're kind of doing the right thing, which is building back up with broths, and then you'll put in rice gruel or something like that. Like you'll cook the rice, but then strain it, and then you'll start to add some proteins, mild proteins, and things like that. Yeah, so Anu is also giving you an example of that. Mung Pani, water of Mung. That is so. Yeah, but that's a really long and intense fast, and I would be very cautious with that in terms of long-term harm it can do on your body, and even destabilizing metabolism. If your body is basically going to assume you're in a famine situation, and it will depress metabolism, and it can take a decade to come off of that.
Oh my goodness. I hope not.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Your body's survival mechanisms are, and are programmed for a reason. So you can experiment with some light kinds of fasting, but I would be very cautious of a long-term fast.
Okay. Well, I'm not never doing this again.
Yeah,
But
good.
yeah, thank you. No, the rashes are really bad. I've never
Yeah, yeah,
experienced
good,
anything
good.
like
Well,
it.
that
Yeah.
then your liver has been really deficient and aggravated, and that coconut oil is just really great liver food. So I
Coconut
don't know if
oil.
that's going to help you. Again, because Ayurveda is individual, but a rash created from deficiency sounds like vata pushing pitta in the liver, and a coconut oil would be number one way to go. And then if you could, like things like chicken liver and things like that,
Mm,
take some chicken liver, puree it in a blender and cook it in a soup broth. And once you're again, you have to build up a little bit to get there. That might be a little too
mhm.
rich for you, but that's going to feed your liver. Liver feeds your liver.
Oh, that's interesting. Are there
Yeah.
any other foods that might be easier help with the liver
Coconut.
functioning? Coconut itself?
Yeah, the coconut. Yeah, coconut oil.
Mhm.
Coconut oil is going to give you calories and it's going to soothe that liver. It's going to cool it and
Okay.
soothe it.
All right. That's good to
Yeah.
know. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. And again, I would just, again, breaking out to a rash after a long fast is just a little bit of a severe condition. If that rash persists, um, seek some medical attention.
Yes, I have an appointment next week.
Okay,
So,
great. Great.
not next week, this week actually, on Wednesday.
Okay, good.
So, yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your questions. I'm going to sign off at this point. We've been on the phone for almost 2 hours together, and it's been great. I really appreciate your questions. Honestly, like I'd love to just do this again tomorrow night and talk to everybody. And it's a great opportunity to be able to help and give some good ideas. And hopefully, people whose questions I didn't answer are getting answers from the other questions that I am answering. And I'm trying to answer things in a kind of general way as well as specific way so that everybody learns from the examples here today. But I do appreciate all of you and your interest and dedication, and it's a great journey. So and really wonderful. So thank you for getting on it and being here with me today. Have a
John,
wonderful
I
evening.
want to say a few words. This is Germana.
Hey, Zermina, I recognize your voice. Great to hear from you. How are you?
Hi, I'm just actually I have to jump in my yoga class, but I want to say I missed you so much. I've missed your classes. I wish I can repeat it every year because whatever I heard today, something new, but I'm proud. Whatever you were saying, I have exactly the same mindset because your classes, especially with mastering indigestion, was completely life change for me and
Oh,
for my
great.
clients as well. So, and I
Thank you,
miss you
Zermina.
really. I
Yeah,
really
I miss you
miss you.
too. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah, all right. Have a good night, everybody.
Yes, you too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.